Hello EFD squad and welcome back to Transfer Review, where we put silly season underneath the microscope that consists of statistics and common sense and doogie and that forehead.
Enormous forehead.
Me too.
4.5 inches.
A lot of forehead on this episode of Transfer Review. And talking of heads, Harry Maguire opens us up.
I know, old slabhead, because he has been in multiple publications this week as he is apparently much closer to joining Man City than Man United, as previously first thought. According to the Mirror, Leicester will receive a world record £80 million bid for Maguire, who will also be handed a £280,000 a week contract by the Citizens. Lucky slabhead. This seems even pretty far-fetched, considering that Kevin De Bruyne is their top earner, and this would make him their second top earner at the club. But according to the Metro, the 26-year-old has told family and friends that he will be going to the Etihad rather than joining Solskjaer's sort of stalling revolution at Old Trafford.
Classic line that, he's told family and friends.
Yes, exactly. How did the Metro know this? No one really knows. Although he would have been an instant starter under Solskjaer at United, the ability to challenge for trophies and the prestige of coming in for Vincent Kompany, who's obviously gone to Anderlecht, back to Anderlecht to become pair coach, means that it was a much bigger draw for Maguire, and evidently a pretty simple decision from his point of view. Meanwhile, from Leicester's point of view, £80 million, far too good to turn down.
Absolutely.
They're looking to tie Youri Tielemans in on a permanent deal and stave off interest for James Maddison. If they've got a healthy bank balance, it's much easier to do that. Apparently, Brendan Rodgers is looking at Burnley's James Tarkowski as a possible replacement for Maguire after another impressive season at Turf Moor. Slightly different players, I think. It'll be interesting to see whether Tarkowski can make that step up. He's a full England international now. But yeah, that'd be kind of fascinating. I think that's a bigger step up than Maguire going to City, Tarkowski going to Leicester, in my humble opinion. He's made 66 Premier League appearances over the past 2 seasons, that's Tarkowski, with only Ben Mee and Jack Hawk playing more minutes in that time, hence a sizable £30 million price tag. And they'll also be looking to get more sort of results out of Ben Gibson, who they signed last summer for, I think it was about 18 million. He probably got injured, didn't play a lot at all. So Burnley used James Gibson. Leicester bringing Tarkowski. Maguire off to City.
And the transfer merry-go-round continues.
Off it goes.
I mean, to net 50 million profit and bring in someone of James Tarkowski's level would represent extremely good value for Leicester. Although a couple of statements there that I'd probably contend. Youri Tielemans, there's no way Leicester get him, given the 6 months that he's just put on for us at Leicester. They might have a first option on him.
There was some reports that he was favouring a move to Leicester over Man United, but it could be pure paper talk.
Goodness gracious.
Shows
what scary times we live in.
Exactly.
Although Brendan Rodgers, you know, the youth do love playing for him.
They do indeed.
The snake. And apparently they're going to sign Callum McGregor from Celtic as well for 17.5 million. Not in the script, but I feel the need to bring it up.
Chris's sadness continues.
What an awful window this could be for us, by the way. Anyway, back to Maguire, because we've got to interrogate, would he represent good value for that money? Let's just pretend 80 million is happening, okay? It makes all of this much easier to deal with. That's a considerably inflated sum for a defender with 0 Champions League experience, Doogie. However, has prospered at every bloody level he's played at, hasn't he? And he has got 5 years left on his contract, maybe 4. I think he signed a 5-year contract last term. And while at Sheffield United, not that this is totally relevant, but we love a bit of colour on Transfer Review, don't we? He won Player of the Year 3 times between 2012 and 2014. He also won Player of the Year at Hull City and in his debut campaign at the King Power. It's a good illustration of how, when he needs to step up,
he's always adapting.
He has a great pedigree, great track record of doing so. But I think this is where him and Tarkowski differ. Tarkowski puts up huge defensive numbers, which is necessary when you've only got about 11% possession per game. But he's not as good at distributing, anywhere near as good as Harry Maguire, who's somewhat underrated at passing, I believe. So last season, 53 passes completed per 90. That's more than anyone else in the Leicester squad. So a lot of the deep progressions start with his positive play. 6.6 long balls.
That's massive.
That really surprised me. A lot of them might be kind of line-splitting grass cutters. Because you don't see him complete a lot of massive diagonal balls.
Maybe over to Vardy on the last man. I'm not sure. I wasn't aware of him being so good at long balls.
Yeah, just pumping it to Vardy might well be the key here. But he's averaging 6.6 per 90, only beaten by Alderweireld in the Premier League, and that's with an 87% pass accuracy as well. That's excellent numbers in a team that only just became kind of possession-oriented since Rodgers' arrival.
Exactly, yeah, it's certainly not under Puel. Yeah.
Puel was a little bit more pragmatic with that, wasn't he? Just to give you some comparison, Aymeric Laporte completes around 81 passes a game and 5.1 long balls with a 92% pass accuracy in a side that has 64% possession. So what we're saying there is we'd expect Maguire's numbers to spike, but they already have extremely adept distributors from the back. Do they need someone whose main prerogative is to start play in that manner? Maybe not. I would say that a left back and a CDM is a much more pressing issue if they're going to spend £80 million. Why don't you just give us 25 to 30 for Kieran Tierney, and Arsenal can stop pissing about? Absolutely mental. Anyway, his success rate in the air, obviously a big plus, big head. Wins 4.1 a game with a 77% success rate compared to Laporte's 2.3, so would complement him in that manner. But is he good enough to displace John Stones, who obviously has a catalogue of mistakes constantly thrown against his very good name, but what a defender on his day.
Finished the season poorly, but this seems like a lot of money to spend on a third choice, effectively.
Yeah, I feel like the concept of money and where people come in the pecking order doesn't really apply at Manchester City anymore, does it?
True.
But pretty depressing, I think. I'd want him to stay at Leicester to play the minutes and to continue to push for a place in the England
But then
side.
if you can go to City, you go to City over United. United is an absolute disease at the moment. You don't want to join that plague. So I think good call from Maguire's point of view, but a lot of money on a possible third choice. But what do you guys think? And can he displace John Stones in the starting lineup? Why don't you vote in the poll above?
Eurofootball Daily, a poll. 2 English centre-backs. Our next hot topic is Nicola Pepe, and according to a lot of media sources, Inter Milan and Atletico Madrid are battling it out for his signature. Now, he's of course your paramour, one of our favourite subjects on Eurofootball Daily, so I will skate over some of his numbers because we've covered him on the podcast as well, the Extra Time podcast, in great depth. But I feel like I really like him. He's definitely going to move to a big club this year, but the fees being bandied around now, I feel like it's getting a little bit out of hand.
Yeah, it might have been a little bit mental.
His parent club, Lille, will be absolutely laughing at the latest rounds of reports because, according to L'Equipe, the Ivorian has been the subject of a €90 million bid from Inter Milan, with Atletico Madrid expected to match it.
Wow.
That's gone from us saying 40 to 50 would probably represent very fair value to almost doubling.
Yeah, at the start of the summer it seemed like 60 and then it quickly leapt to 75 and now it's 90 within a space of a couple of weeks.
Maybe Liverpool's involvement supercharged that fee.
Potentially.
They've kind of dipped their toes in and out of that situation now, and it looks like he might be heading to La Liga or Serie A. Now, he's currently in Egypt for the AFCON, with the Ivory Coast playing their first game against South Africa yesterday, and didn't watch the game, but I did see a report saying that he was extremely lively. And according to French football expert Mohamed Boufassi, Pepe's leaving Lille is a certainty, full stop. And it's pretty much now up to him who he joins. So the power is in his hands, basically, despite his contract that runs until 2022. But at this point, I think Lille just happy to take that seismic fee. But he had a seismic campaign, didn't he? So you can kind of forgive clubs for getting overly excited with this one. So 33 goal involvements in 38 league earn appearances. His expected goals and assists pretty much bear that out, which is a rarity. So he didn't really get too much good luck. Those numbers are a fair representation of his efforts. And they represented a 94% upturn on a very solid 17-18 campaign where he contributed to 17 goals. So if his star continues to ascend this way, he'll be contributing to 1,000 goals next season.
May well be. But where would he fit best? That's the key question. Will he be at the San Siro, which is about to be knocked down apparently, or the Wanda Metropolitana? Yeah, real shame about the San Siro. Never been, but always liked the look of it, particularly on FIFA. But both clubs are planning big outlays this summer, with Marcus Llorente, already heading to the Wanda Metropolitano for €40 million, which seems like a lot of money for someone who hasn't had that much game time, but a good move for him. Meanwhile, Los Rojiblancos remain the most likely destination for the €120 million rated João Felix, as they look to rejuvenate their forward line in preparation for Antoine Griezmann's departure. So I don't really know whether they've got the money to do João Felix, and Nicola Pepe. It doesn't seem likely at all. But their right-hand side of their attack could definitely do with some bolstering. Angel Correa struggled to hold down a starting spot last year and contributed to just 5 goals in La Liga. But they've got much more pressing issues, in my opinion. Aging defence, backline average age of 30.3 last term, and they've lost Juanfran, Godin, obviously, Felipe Luis is gone, and Luca Hernandez has obviously gone to Bayern Munich, that €80 million move. Meanwhile, Inter Milan have made it clear that Romelu Lukaku is their primary target this summer. The striker wants out of Old Trafford. He's called Conte, the best manager in the world. And it's understood that the Nerazzurri are some way off United's €80 million valuation. So I'm starting to think that neither of these clubs have the finances to do this summer with their primary plans already underway. But
hence the point of the show.
Exactly. But maybe that João Felix move is just being over-exaggerated by the Portuguese press. I can't see anyone paying that amount for him. It does seem like a massive
after
waste.
he scored that goal in training, I'm convinced.
Really? That was a beautiful goal. Pay for that video alone. While a move for Lukaku could spell the end of Icardi's time at the club, securing Pepe would be detrimental to Politano, who only signed on a permanent deal with the club this month. He had a pretty good debut campaign on loan, scored 5 and assisted 6, and ranked first at the club for chance creation with 2.3 key passes a game. Either way, it seems like it's going to take until the end of the AFCON on the 19th of July for Pepe to finally determine where he'll go next season. But you guys, we want to hear from you. If you were Nicolas Pepe, where would you go? And do you think he's worth €90 million? Because we're a little bit confused.
If he is, James Forrest is worth 75.
Deluded. So we head from Serie A and La Liga back to the Premier League, because The Sun have reported this week that Southampton have made one final bid to land Birmingham City's Che Adams. I don't know why they're so determined to make one final bid. There's a few more weeks left in the window, Southampton. Don't get too demanding. But Adams has been a long-term target for manager Ralph Hasenhüttl, with the Saints having a £10 million bid rejected back in January. The 22-year-old had a fantastic breakout campaign last term, playing all 46 championship fixtures, scoring 22 and assisting 4. That amounted to a goal contribution every 144 minutes. Very decent, considering Birmingham finished 17th. And friend of the channel, Will Brazier, was having a horrible time following it. And he thought that Che Adams was pretty much their only hope of, going up next year. And Gary Monk has now left the club as well. So there's a massive turmoil for any Blues fan coming to deal with all this. But his loss would be massive. He accounted for 41% of the team's overall output last season. And he's got a contract running until 2022, so at least they're in a fairly good position for negotiation, and they're holding out for £16 million. But Southampton's £14 million offer is apparently a take it or leave it, according to reports. So, yeah, it feels like this might be it if Birmingham want to cash in on their really strong asset, I suppose.
Yeah, again, we covered him on the podcast, on the Extra Time podcast. I can't remember who I tipped him for. It might have been someone like Southampton, actually. I'd have to go back, dig through the archives. But you can see why he's on the radar of a lot of Premier League clubs. A physical specimen, powerful runner with the ball, likes to pick it up in wide areas and sort of drive into more central zones. Has a decent array of finishing as well. I only sort of did 1 or 2 days research on him, but I kind of drew some parallels with Andre Gray.
Okay.
In that he's aggressive. You can't sort of muscle him off the ball in any way, shape or form. Maybe doesn't hang around the goal enough to signal himself out as someone who's going to be prolific in the Premier League. But I think a very useful player nonetheless. And I do believe they turned down bids for from Fulham when Fulham were promoted.
Really?
So multiple parties think he can play at that level, or maybe it was Fulham's promotion campaign. But nonetheless, let's get back to Southampton because they do need more firepower. 100%. Ward-Prowse and Danny Ings tied as top scorers, that is stinking last season, on 7 Premier League goals. In fact, the team haven't topped 50 goals, a team we've come to know for their attacking philosophy, and their previous managers, at the very least, apart from Puel and Mark Hughes. Wow.
Stinky Mark.
Anyway, since 2015-16 when they finished 6th, they've not really had a decent creator since Dusan Tadic, have they? Obviously, weird move letting him go. However, Adams would have to adapt to a new system, but Hasenhüttl obviously has confidence that he can do so. So he's been partnered with Jutakowicz.
I never know how to say his name either. Jutakowicz or something like that.
And he used to play at Motherwell as well. So I've known about him for about 10 years, but I still can't pronounce his name. He played with him, or he's kind of prospered with him in a 4-4-2 system. I mean, when I was doing that research, the system chopped and changed with the management at St Andrews. So I'm sure he would be able to adapt. Hasenhüttl tended to prefer a 3-4-2-1 at St Mary's. Saints have made a decent start to the summer, so they've already signed Moussa Genpo, who scored 7 goals for Standard Liège from the left wing last season for 18 million euros. Sort of price mark that we've come to know them for in the modern era. Hopefully they can turn that into something really positive. But if they can't land Adams, do you have any more recommendations from the championships? Any diamonds in the rough that we may have missed? We've not been that clued up on them. Next season, I fully intend to be. So give me a head start here. Let us know in the comments below. And let's move on to our new section. We've got a rotating second segment. So the weeks before, it was us bringing a player to the table. And now, apparently, according to McCubbin's script,
It's the fans' choice.
the fans' choice. Didn't need to swear there.
Okay, so as Chris told you there, we're going to fans' choice. And this one came in from Nachiket Nanotti. Sorry if I butchered your name there,
Sounded
Nachiket.
right, though.
It sounded okay.
Yeah.
I think I really got going on it. Anyway, he's saying Danny Ceballos to Spurs, because his reasoning was wouldn't break the bank, would instantly start and would solve the midfield for the next 7 seasons at least. A gem of a player too, especially under Poch. Wouldn't have to sell Eriksen for it either. Instant fix as well as a long-term one. We've seen a lot of players linked with Spurs in that midfield area over the last few weeks. Look, the Chelsea and Ndombele mainly. And Eriksen has also admitted that he wants to leave. So it seems like there will be a bit of chopping and changing in that Spurs midfield this summer. Danny Ceballos, from the highlights I've seen of him, can't say I've seen that many regular minutes because they've been pretty few and far between even. Looks excellent. And I've seen some of the highlights of him playing for Spain under 21 this summer. He is awesome, at least at that level at the moment. Looks far and above the rest of his teammates and the opposition at the moment. So I'm sort of all for this, but Chris, what have you seen of Ceballos? Do you know a bit more than me in greater detail?
The treatment of this prodigious talent has been nothing short even, not myself, of sickening, to be quite frank.
Revolting.
Absolutely appalling. Fewer than 500 league minutes for Real Madrid in the last 2 seasons.
Wow.
Given how their midfield is rapidly aging out, and they bought this guy from Real Betis after a year where he did absolutely everything for Los Béticos. He was putting up great defensive numbers, I think over 4 tackles and interceptions. I think he was completing around 2.7 dribbles, if memory serves me correctly, but sometimes it does falter. And around 2 key passes. So this was an all-action midfielder who had the world at his feet, secured his dream move. He was a Spanish, was he an international at that point? A budding, international talent. And he's just been sidelined. But we've seen this time and time again at Real Madrid. However, he's not quite like Isco. He can play in a slightly more deeper, reserved, central midfield role. He doesn't have to be that number 10. And he's just not getting a look in because every manager is stuck with Cruz, is struck. Bloody hell, that's how shocked I am. Stuck with Modric. If I'm at Real Madrid, I find a way to incorporate this guy into the side. I do think he's that good. They've subsequently been linked with Fabian Ruiz at Napoli, and Fabian Ruiz was actually bought by Real Betis to replace Danny Ceballos. So that would be a double whammy for Danny Ceballos, being replaced by his replacement. I think this would be an absolutely superb signing for Tottenham Hotspur. I think this would be better than James Rodriguez, actually, because there's just more miles left in the tank. James Rodriguez, a little bit
cheaper as well.
A little bit injury prone. Going to have to pay him significant wages. Don't get me wrong, he would be an absolute Galactico signing for Tottenham Hotspur. But this guy's, 23? Or maybe possibly even younger. Around that age, you get 10 years out of it.
It makes me think that if Zidane is willing to let Ceballos go, he's pretty sure he's going to get one of the midfielders they've been linked with, one of the Eriksen, Pogba and Ndombele's this summer, because I just don't think you let he's the first cab off the rank in terms of replacing Modric long term at the moment in that squad, and I think it'd be an error to let him go, to be honest. But really exciting for Spurs fans.
So what midfield 3 have they let go? So who's the guy that was linked to, not Atletico Madrid?
Marcus Llorente.
So they've got Llorente, who's actually put up fabulous numbers when he's played, and he had a great season out on loan. Llorente, Kovacic and Danny Ceballos.
Yeah.
That midfield 3 can't get a sniff. There's so many bargains to be had at Real Madrid.
100%.
Idiots hoarding talent.
But yeah, we are very much a fan of this potential move to Spurs. But Spurs fans, we want to hear from you. What are you guys thinking at the moment? Do you want Ndombele? Do you want Lo Celso? Do you want Danny Ceballos, or do you want all three? Let us know in the comments below.
That's transfer review for another week, guys. If you enjoyed this, then go and check out the new XI over on Football Daily or Awkward FIFA and FBFC, soon to be rebranded to a new name channel. You know, go and check that out. Anything else?
No, maybe go watch Stat Was the League from Saturday. It was another entertaining episode. Thanks very much for watching, guys. See ya.
Bye.